The fall of Solara. The ruins of a dead world. The wind screamed through the skeletal remains of Solara, the once glorious capital of the Celestial Empire. Now, it was nothing but a corpse of a city, its towering spires reduced to jagged teeth biting at a blood-red sky. The air reeked of ozone and decay, a bitter reminder of the purge of the Skyborn, when the Order of Dawn had scorched the heavens clean of gods. Joran Vey adjusted the cracked respirator strapped to his face, his boots crunching over irradiated glass. He was a ghost here, a shadow slipping between the bones of a fallen civilization. A disgraced scientist, once celebrated for his work on celestial energy, now reduced to scavenging the Order's forbidden zones. Another vault, another corpse, he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. The Order had sealed this sector under Decree 7, meaning it held something they feared. Or something they wanted no one else to find. His gloved fingers pried at the rusted vault door, the metal groaning in protest. Inside, the darkness pulsed like a living thing. His wrist-mounted bioscanner flickered, residual energy signatures, celestial grade. Impossible. The Order had purged every trace of the Skyborn. The wounded god. Then he saw it. A figure slumped against the far wall, its once glorious wings of liquid silver now shattered, their luminescent filaments flickering weakly. A sky god. Joran's breath caught. They were supposed to be extinct. Wiped out. Yet here one lay, its body bleeding liquid starlight from a gash across its chest. The god's head lifted slowly, and Joran found himself staring into eyes like dying suns, violet fire dimming but still fierce. You. The voice was a blade dragged across stone, raw with pain. You smell of the void. Joran froze. The void, the cosmic abyss that the Order preached was the source of all corruption. The thing they had burned entire worlds to eradicate. I don't know what you're talking about, he lied, stepping back. The god's hand shot out, faster than thought, gripping Joran's wrist. Agony exploded up his arm as celestial runes seared into his skin, glowing like molten metal. Liar, the god, Kirith, hissed. You are marked now, little thief. The Order will hunt you for this. The Order's approach. Outside, the distant thunder of Dawnbreaker drones vibrated through the ruins. The Order's enforcers. They swept the dead zones daily, executing trespassers on sight. Joran's mind raced. If they found him here, with a living god, he'd be flayed alive for heresy. Can you walk? He demanded, yanking Kiritha's arm over his shoulder. The god snarled, not unless you fix my wings. Joran glanced at the mangled silver limbs. Even broken, they hummed with latent power. And how the hell do I do that? Kiritha's lips peeled back in a pained grin. With your blood, Void touched. The mark's secret. Joran recoiled. What? Before Kirith could answer, a plasma round shattered the vault's entrance. Contact, a mechanized voice boomed. Joran ducked as a second shot turned the wall beside him to slag. The drones had found them. Kiritha's fingers dug into his arm. Run or die, mortal. Joran cursed and hauled the god upright. If you get me killed, I'm haunting you in the afterlife. They stumbled into the ruins as the drones opened fire. Whispers of the void. Escape through the ruins. Joran's lungs burned as he dragged Kirith through the skeletal remains of Solara, the god's shattered wings scraping against broken stone. Behind them, the Dawnbreaker drones screeched like metallic vultures, their plasma cannons charging for another volley. Move faster, mortal, Kirith growled, his voice strained with pain. I'm trying. Joran snapped, ducking as a blast turned a nearby pillar to molten slag. The heat seared his skin, and the smell of scorched metal filled his nostrils. He risked a glance back. The drones were gaining, 6 of them, their polished silver hulls gleaming under Solara's sickly red sun. The Order's insignia, a blazing sun encircled by a blade, was etched onto their armored shells. Kirith suddenly gripped Joran's shoulder, his fingers digging in like claws. There, the old transit tunnels. Go. Joran didn't argue. He veered toward a collapsed archway, its entrance half buried in rubble. With a grunt, he shoved Kirith through the gap just as another plasma round erupted at their heels. Darkness swallowed them. The blood of the void. The tunnel was cold, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and rusted metal. Joran flicked on his wrist light, the pale beam revealing ancient glyphs carved into the walls, celestial script, the language of the gods. Kirith slumped against the tunnel wall, his breathing ragged. The starlight leaking from his wounds had dimmed, his silver wings flickering like dying embers. "You're not going to make it," Joran said bluntly. Kiritha's violet eyes burned. "Not unless you help me." "How?" "I'm not a damn medic." The god lifted a trembling hand, pointing at Joran's wrist, where the celestial runes still glowed faintly. "Your blood carries the void's echo. It can reignite my fire." Joran stared. "You want me to bleed for you? Unless you'd prefer the order flay us both alive." Outside, the drone scanners whirred, their mechanical voices echoing. "Targets lost. Deploying seekers." Joran cursed. He had no weapons, no backup, just a dying god and a mark he didn't understand. Gritting his teeth, he pulled a shard of broken glass from his belt. "This better work." He sliced his palm. The awakening. The moment his blood dripped onto Kiritha's wounds, the tunnel exploded in violet light. Joran staggered back as the god's body arched off the ground, his wings snapping wide with a sound like shattering crystal. The runes on Joran's wrist blazed, searing his skin with fresh pain. "What the hell?" Kirith rose, his wounds sealing, his wings now radiating a storm of liquid starlight. His voice, when he spoke, was no longer weak, it was the rumble of thunder before the storm. "You are more than a thief, Joran Vey." The ground trembled. Above them, the drones shrieked, then went silent. The order's secret. A new voice cut through the dark. "So. The void touched lives." Joran spun. A woman stood at the tunnel's entrance, her armored robes the color of dried blood. Her face was hidden behind a visor of black glass, but the insignia on her chest was unmistakable, High Inquisitor of the Order of Dawn. Behind her, a dozen soldiers leveled pulse rifles. "You were a fool to come back to Solara, Joran," she said. "The Order erased your research. Your colleagues. Did you really think we wouldn't erase you too?" Joran's blood ran cold. He knew that voice. "Lyra?" The Inquisitor removed her helmet. It was her. "Blood of stars. The edge of reality." Joran gasped as the void's cold grip released him. His body felt hollowed out, his veins burning with an unnatural chill. The temple around him was a shattered monument, its pillars broken, its altars stained with dried starlight. Above, the sky was a warped mirror, reflecting fragments of dead worlds. Kirith stood over him, his silver wings flickering like dying embers. "Breathe," Void touched. "The first crossing is always the hardest." Joran coughed, his throat raw. "Where are we?" "The edge," Kirith said, his voice echoing strangely in the hollow air. "A place between realms. The last refuge of my kind." Joran forced himself to sit up. The temple floor was carved with celestial runes, their meaning lost to time. At the center of the chamber stood a massive obsidian archway, its surface swirling with the same liquid darkness that had brought them here. "A void gate," Kirith murmured. "The Order thought they destroyed them all." Joran's wrist burned where the god's mark had seared into his skin. "You said my blood could help you. Why?" Kirith turned, his violet eyes piercing. "Because you are not just a thief, Joran Vey. You are the last descendant of the Void Walkers, the ones who first bridged the realms. The Order's pursuit." Before Joran could process that, the gate shuddered. A crack split the air, and a golden blade sliced through the darkness. They followed us, Kirith snarled. Lyra stepped through the rift, her armor scorched but her grip steady on her weapon. Behind her, Order soldiers poured into the temple, their rifles humming with charge. "You can't run forever, brother," she hissed. Joran's stomach twisted. "Lyra, stop this. The Order is using you." She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "No. They showed me the truth. The void is a cancer. And you are its last vessel." She lunged. Kirith intercepted her mid-strike, their clash sending shockwaves through the temple. The soldiers opened fire. Joran rolled behind a shattered pillar, pulse rounds searing the stone where his head had been. He was trapped. Unarmed. And now, the sister he'd mourned for years was trying to kill him. The gods' bargain. Kiritha's voice echoed in his mind, not aloud, but inside his skull. "Joran. There is another way." Joran flinched. "How are you?" "The mark binds us. Listen. Your blood can awaken the gate. It can take us beyond the Order's reach." "And then what?" Joran shot back. "You'll leave me to die." Kiritha's presence in his mind burned like a brand. "No. I will give you what you seek. The truth about your family. About the void. About why the Order fears you." Lyra's blade grazed Kiritha's wing, drawing liquid starlight. The god roared in pain. Joran had seconds to decide. The sacrifice. He ran for the gate. Lyra screamed his name, but he didn't stop. He reached the archway, and slammed his bleeding palm against the obsidian. The world exploded in black fire. The gate awoke, its surface twisting into a maelstrom of shadows. Kirith broke free from Lyra's grasp and hurled himself at Joran, dragging them both into the storm. The last thing Joran saw was his sister's face, not furious, but terrified. Then the void swallowed them whole. The Iron Covenant. The weight of betrayal. Joran's hands trembled as he stared at his sister, Lyra Vey, High Inquisitor of the Order of Dawn. The girl who had once taught him how to navigate the stars now stood before him in armor stained with the blood of the Skyborn. Her eyes, once warm with laughter, were cold. "Dead. You joined them." His voice cracked. "After what they did to our parents." Lyra didn't flinch. "The Order saved me from the Void's corruption. Just as they'll save you." Behind her, the soldiers tightened their grip on their rifles. Their fingers hovered over the triggers, waiting for the command to fire. Kirith stepped forward, his wings casting jagged shadows across the tunnel walls. "She is lost to you," Void touched. "The Order's lies have rotted her mind." Lyra's gaze flicked to the god, her lip curling in disgust. "And you've bound yourself to a parasite. How fitting." The first strike. Joran barely had time to react before Lyra slammed her fist into the ground. A shockwave of golden energy erupted from her gauntlet, ripping through the tunnel like a detonation. The ceiling shattered, raining stone and dust. Joran threw himself sideways, but Kirith moved faster. The god's wings flared like a storm front, shielding Joran from the collapse. The moment the debris settled, Kirith lunged, a blur of silver and violet. Lyra barely dodged. His talons grazed her shoulder, tearing through armor like paper. She hissed, rolling away as her soldiers opened fire. Pulse rounds scorched the air. Joran dove behind a fallen pillar, his heart hammering. He was unarmed. Outnumbered. And now, his own sister wanted him dead. The blood packed. Kirith landed beside him, his breath ragged. "We cannot win this fight." "No shit." Joran snapped. "But we can escape." The god seized Joran's wrist, where the runes still burned. "If you give me more of your blood, I can open a path." Joran hesitated. "What's the catch?" Kiritha's eyes darkened. The void will answer. And it will leave its mark deeper. Another explosion rocked the tunnel. Lyra was advancing, her soldiers flanking her. Joran had no choice. He sliced his palm again, deeper this time. The void's price. The moment his blood touched Kiritha's skin, the world screamed. The air itself ripped open, a jagged tear in reality swirling with liquid darkness. Beyond it, Joran saw things, twisting shapes, whispering voices, a hunger older than stars. The void. Lyra froze. No. Kirith seized Joran and hurled them both through the rift. The other side. They landed in a place that should not exist. A ruined temple, floating in an endless abyss. The sky was a cracked mirror, reflecting fragments of dead worlds. The air smelled of burning metal and old blood. Joran collapsed, gasping. His veins burned black where the void had touched him. Kirith knelt beside him, his voice grim. Welcome to the edge, mortal. The last sanctuary of the gods.